So the next stage of the hero's journey is called the crossing of the first threshold. And the first threshold represents the first of the set of circumstances and challenges that the hero must undertake and complete in order to move into a higher vibration, a higher universal understanding of existence. And that is the very first challenge that the hero must accomplish. So remember my previous video where we talked about the supernatural aid that comes in and personifies and lets it be known to the hero that they are there. You start to really realize that there's more that exists than this realm. There are spiritual helpers that are here to guide us. And with that being known, the hero gains confidence and continues on and faces these tough challenges. So I'm going to read here on page 77, The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. This is about the crossing of the first threshold. This is coming face to face with the gargoyles, the dangerous forces, the demons, and the orgs that are manifest at this point. With the personification of his destiny to guide and aid him, the hero goes forward in his adventure until he comes to the Threshold Guardian, at the entrance to the zone of magnified power. Such custodians, these orgs, these dragons, these gargoyles, such custodians bound the world in the four directions, also up and down. That means forward, backward, up and down in space and time, which stands for the limits of the hero's present sphere, or reality. Beyond the hero is darkness, the unknown, and danger, just as beyond the parental watch is danger to the infant and beyond the protection of his society. The usual person is more than content. He is even proud to remain within the indicated bounds, and popular belief gives him every reason to fear so much as to step inside the unexplored. So this means that the hero, once he had his supernatural aid manifest and let it be known that he is being guided, he moves beyond the bound, the social bound. He moves into an area of the mind that is less explored. These people sometimes are called crazy. These people are kind of outcasts of their society. People judge them and criticize them. They don't understand them. But what the hero is going through is this process of shedding off the old and coming into a new life horizon. So remember from my last video that the potential hero meets their supernatural aid. There's lots of names for supernatural aid: guardian angels, spirit guides, ancestors, mystical beings that are protective and assist the person committed to the hero's journey along their path. So once the hero has this supernatural experience, they gain the confidence to move into the stage of the first threshold. It is at this stage that the hero starts experiencing and living in a different dimension. And so for me, at this stage, there were a lot of strange things happening to me and other people around me. And it lasted for about a year and a half. And lights and electrical appliances would turn on and off when I was around. I was meditating for just world healing, just a lot of loving thoughts, and I was at work and I was working in a room just to myself, so I was in the room alone. And maybe 10 minutes into my meditation, the lights would flicker on and off. Um, and I had asked around if the lights had been messed with or if they got changed out, and they didn't have a reason to explain why it was doing that. But it would do that whenever I would meditate. There was one time where I was meditating in my bed, I was laying down, and I started meditating, and I was trying to put out positive energy to a person who just recently had a cancer diagnosis. And maybe again 10-15 minutes into the meditation, all of a sudden the hairs on my arms just started standing up, and I got really just afraid, and I was laying back in bed. I opened up my eyes, and there was this black orb that came in and circled over my bed, and it would flash, like it flashed 3 times in and out. And on the third time, it flashed this mean face at me, and I watched it just move and manipulate around the room and then out of the window. It curved out of the window. So this entity did not like me putting positive energy into this person that had cancer. I was also experiencing nightly these beautiful and at the same time just terrific and terrifying dreams. I made a video about this one where I was holding a galaxy and I can see all these planets, all these stars, and I was like stretching this galaxy, and I was out in space. It was just black all around, and it lasted for so long, and I was just holding this galaxy. It was a very galactic, very connected, very beautiful dream. And I mean, I had dreams that I was levitating up and then flying off into space, and these dreams were just so beautiful. So it wasn't all negative. There was a lot of negative things, but just as equally, I was having very, very beautiful, wonderful, spiritual, loving things happen to me. So it made it less scary when this negative things started happening. I started experiencing sleep paralysis. That was not fun. Sleep paralysis is where you're sleeping and your mind is dreaming, but all of a sudden you open your eyes, but your mind is still dreaming. So you start to hallucinate beings and people in the room, and sometimes people do get attacked. A lot of hypersensitives experience sleep paralysis, and I've had beautiful, wonderful things happen during sleep paralysis, but at the same time, I would also get attacked by other dimensional beings when I was in this state. And you can't talk, you can't speak when you're having a sleep paralysis episode. So I could hear my mind just screaming, but I couldn't wake up. I was stuck in a dimension, halfway in, halfway out, and it was terrifying. Around the same time, I started experiencing prophetic dreams, which means that I would see things happening in my dreams, wake up, and then a month will go by, and the exact things down to detail would manifest. It would really, really happen. So I was jumping ahead in my life timeline and seeing what was going to happen. Another scary thing at this point was my ex-husband. He actually got physically attacked by some sort of force that left him with 4 pretty deep, long, severe scratches on his back. And I wish I would have taken a picture of it. We had no explanation for it. He himself knows that It was nothing he did throughout the day. It was because I was going through this process and I would hear a lot of audible sounds and voices in my ears. Like, it was like someone whispering in my ears. And my ex-husband kept hearing very strange, mysterious sounds over my bed. And he went up into the attic, he went down into the basement, and it wasn't a sound that is a normal sound. It was a very strange frequency, metally sound. And I asked him, um, how did it sound? And he couldn't even make the sound with his mouth. He would have to come up with, it was some sort of like, he basically described it as like, it was as if like a UFO started up and zipped off. That's how strange the sound would. And it happened 3 times over my bed when I wasn't home. So after about a year and a half of this intensified energy, I just became unafraid. I was super afraid before when it started happening with the sounds and just so many things happening. I was afraid, but then I became unafraid. Um, and I just knew something major and very important was happening, and I just accepted my hypersensitivity and the process that I was going through. And the next stage is called the belly of the whale. And the belly of the whale symbolizes a new birth for the hero going through the hero's journey. So on page 90 of the Hero with a Thousand Faces, the idea that the passage of the magical threshold is a transit into a sphere of rebirth is symbolized in the worldwide womb image of the belly of the whale. The hero, instead of conquering the power of the threshold, is swallowed into the unknown and would have appeared to have died. This popular motif gives emphasis to the lesson that the passage of the threshold is a form of self-annihilation. But here, instead of passing outward, beyond the confines of the visible world, the hero goes inward to be born again. The disappearance corresponds to the passing of a worshipper into a temple, where he is quickened by the recollection of who and what he is, namely dust and ashes, unless immortal. The temple interior, also the belly of the whale, and the heavenly land beyond, above and below the confines of the world, are one and the same. That is why the approaches and entrances to temples are flanked and defended by colossal gargoyles, dragons, lions, devil slayers with drawn swords, resentful dwarfs, and winged bulls. These are the threshold guardians to ward away all incapable of encountering the higher silences within. They illustrate the fact that the devotee, at the moment of entry into a temple, undergoes a metamorphosis. His secular character remains without. He sheds it, like the skin of a snake. But once inside, he may be said to have died to time and returned to the world womb, the world navel, the earthly paradise. Anyone unable to understand a god sees it as a devil, and is thus defended from the approach. Going into the belly of the whale is a life-altering, life-centering, life-renewing act. Outsiders who may have been close to the hero sees him as someone who is kind of just disappearing out of their reality. And when all of these things were happening to me, when all of the lights flickering and the scratches, I did everything I possibly could to debunk it, to try to figure out logically within scientific means what happened. And almost with everything that I was encountering as supernatural, really was supernatural to me because I tried so hard to figure out what was happening. This is heady stuff. And it is beautiful and fascinating and wonderful, and it is my spiritual backbone. I get this, I understand this, I experience this.